like to share a tour of my 2020 winter vegetable garden that was taken on December 11th. Also, I'll be sharing a lot of useful how-to information so that you can create your own winter vegetable garden, and you too can have endless salads, stir fries, and greens from October through April. Our mild winters in Texas provide us with a second growing season. These vegetables grow best during our Texas winters. So you see we have quite a lot of vegetables to grow during this time. So each vegetable has a temperature beside it that is the low temperature at which that vegetable needs to be covered. So for example, say I'm growing lettuce and I hear on the weather forecast that the low temperature of the night will be 25 degrees or lower, or there will be ice and snow. Therefore, I want to cover my lettuce with a blanket in the evening and then remove it in the morning when the temperatures are warmer or the ice and snow has passed. And you can also provide warmth for your vegetables by adding row cover fabric or hoop houses. This is a picture of just how resilient some of these greens are during this time of the year in the winter. The picture on the right was taken at dawn when the temperature was 26 degrees during a frost. And then the same lettuce was taken 2 hours later after the sun had been shining on the plants and the temperatures had risen. And they look perfectly fabulous. So they're very durable. So what's needed for your winter vegetable garden? You need a sunny or partially sunny location. You need well-drained soil with compost. Your garden spot can be in the ground, a raised bed, a whiskey barrel, a planter box, a water trough, or even a large pot. You're going to need seeds or transplants. You're going to want to plant your seeds in mid-September to early October. After October, you can plant transplants. You want to water the soil when it feels almost dry, and you want to water in the afternoon during the warmer part of the winter. And water is kind of like antifreeze for these vegetables. It helps them to survive these temperatures. And you want to, of course, cover the plants when the temperatures are going to reach the low for that temperature for the night. Here's some of the heirloom seeds that you're going to see grown in this video. And I really like this company, Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, because they have just enough seeds in these packets that are the size for the urban gardener at a really good price. So you get to try lots of varieties and just get the seeds you need and pay for what you're going to really use. So let's get on to the actual tour. So this is the first bed of winter vegetables. From left to right, you see purple lady bok choy. And then in the center, you see several types of heirloom lettuces. There's Sucrine, there's Four Seasons, there is blush butter cos, there is speckled troutback, and then the light green heads on the far right, that is tom thumb lettuce, and the bright green plants at the very back of the bed are cabbages that will fill out as the season progresses. This next bed is on the left is Tatsoi, also known as rosette bok choy, and then on the right is Swiss chard. And to the right, you'll also see some 4-inch transplants. So this bed was not available for me to plant my seeds directly in the bed in September because I still had melons growing in this bed. So instead, I planted my seeds in these 4-inch pots and created my own transplants. Then once the melons had passed in the bed, I planted my transplants. So this third bed is from left to right. There is kale, and there's an older kale in front that's kind of blocking the view. And then in the middle we have collards, and then on the far right there's a few bright green mustard plants, but most of my mustard plants are planted along the back fence because they need more space between them. And now let's go into some individual varieties. So this is tom thumb lettuce. It has a very mild taste. Of course, it can be eaten raw in salads, and all the lettuces have a very mild taste. This is the several heirloom varieties, the Sucrine, Blush Butter, Cos, and Four Seasons lettuces. This variety is speckled troutback. Notice how all new growth and all new leaves form from the center. All lettuces and every green you will see on this tour grows this very same way. This provides a key to how we can have endless lettuce and greens over several months. That's because we can harvest only the outer leaves when we need them. So when I want a fresh salad, I bring my scissors to the garden and I snip off only the outer leaves of the lettuce that I want. This leaves the roots intact so that the plant will continue to grow more new leaves from the center, thus producing endless salads and greens for several months. The next plant is kale. And again, when I want kale, I'll just bring my scissors to the garden and I'll snip off outer leaves that I need. That leaves the root intact, so more new leaves will form from the center. And this is actually a Portuguese kale called Transplants that grows well here in Texas because it withstands the temperatures better, the hotter temperatures before going to seed. So kale is very good as baked kale chips and as a spinach replacement. I also like to blanch my kale to reduce the oxalic acid content in the kale. If you have a history of developing kidney stones, and so you might be a little bit more concerned about oxalates in foods. There's a lot of there's oxalates in all types of foods, but some of the greens have a little bit higher numbers. But blanching them or boiling them helps reduce that oxalic acid content. The next one is collard greens. Again, when I get ready to make my wonderful boiled southern collard greens that I love so much, I just come out to the garden and I snip off outer leaves that I need for my pot of collard greens that I'm going to cook for the day. And then that leaves the root intact, so more new leaves will form from the center, and so I will have endless collard greens for months. And collard greens are, of course, very good boiled as the southern collard greens that we all know, and also sauteed. And boiling them helps reduce that oxalic acid content. The next green is arugula. It's a zippy, peppery tasting green. It's also known as roquette or rocket. And I think that's because it grows so fast. It grows like a rocket or a weed. And it also withstands some very cold temperatures. So when I get ready to get some arugula, I just come out to the garden with my scissors and I snip off the outer leaves. And arugula is very good paired with milder tasting lettuces and with blue cheese. It's just delicious. You can also use it on pizza as a garnish and also make pesto out of it. Next greens are parsley and cilantro, and yes, they are herbs, but I also think of parsley really as a vegetable. And they grow best during the winter. In fact, cilantro will try to go to seed anytime the temperatures are over 85. So it's really the best time to grow it. I also, another reason I think of parsley as a vegetable is because I eat a lot of tabbouleh salads. But of course, you could just grow it for herbs and you can have your fresh and dried herbs of parsley and cilantro. And of course, the cilantro, when it goes to seed, is coriander. So you get two herbs out of that one. I also grow a very mild tasting Japanese mustard called Tatsoi, and it is, again, I just snip off the outer leaves when I need some for soups or sauteed or steamed or salads. And of course, you can also let the mustard go to seed and harvest the seeds and grind and make your own mustard. Again, give mustard lots of space because as the temperature starts getting warmer, they can reach up to 5 feet tall. So our next green, Swiss chard, and the next ones that I'm going to show you need to be harvested a little bit differently. For the Swiss chard, you are going, again, when the plant's small like this, you can snip off the outer leaves as you need them. but snip them off 2 inches above the ground. And so once the plant gets older, it's going to get a very thick upright stalk, kind of like celery. And you can also harvest the entire plant at this point. You're just going to want to cut it off 2 inches above the ground. And then a whole new plant will come back from the root. And some people call this cut and come again. So here is a Swiss chard that has been cut off from the ground. And notice it's already making 2 or 3 new leaves from the center. So Bok Choy, this is Purple Lady Bok Choy. You harvest it the same way as Swiss chard. You're going to, when it's young like this, you're going to snip off outer leaves as you need them. When it gets older and more upright and develops a very thick stalk, that's when you can harvest the whole plant by making a straight cut with a knife 2 inches above the ground, and then leaving the root intact, and a whole new plant will grow from the root. Same way with Tatsoi. You harvest it the same way. When it's young, snip off outer leaves, and when it is older and gets a thick stalk, you will cut it off 2 inches from the ground. And Tatsoi is also known as vitamin green because it's packed with vitamins and minerals. In fact, it has twice the vitamin C as an orange, and it has some of the lowest amounts of oxalic acid, that and bok choy. Of course, it's known as rosette bok choy. And also, it's very good. Bok choy and tatsoi are very good as stir fries, sauteed, steamed. Tatsoi is also a very good spinach substitute. As the temperatures begin to warm closer to the spring and your vegetable garden draws to a close, you might let one of each of your varieties develop flowers that will turn to seeds. Then once the seeds are golden brown, harvest the seeds and put them in an envelope and store them in a cool, dry place for your seeds for next year's winter garden. Happy gardening, and thank you for watching.